morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone, wherever you are joining around the world. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Alejandra Corbat, and I'm very happy that you are joining, you are here with me this morning, giving me some time of your day. Thank you so very much for being here. I see that Eduardo is here. It was very early. He was here very early. Thank you so much for joining, Eduardo. For those who don't know, I have my YouTube channel in Spanish as well. So Eduardo is part of the community in that channel as well. So I'm very glad that you are here. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning. And Sigo, there you are. Good morning. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Um, Cheers to Minnesota. And for those who don't know, I had a presentation this week on Monday, and Sigo was there with me. So thank you so much for joining me there as well. I presented on the at the Saudi Arabia meetup. So thank you so much, Sigol, for joining me there as well. Thank you. Excellent. We have a very small crowd this morning. Hopefully we get more joining later today, but let's start. I'm going to start showing you what we are going to see today. So I hope that everybody had a very nice week and you are getting ready to rest and enjoy your weekend. Okay, and just let me share. And I forgot to hide the taskbar. Just let me hide that one very quickly because I find it a little bit distracting. So I'm just gonna automatically hide that, and I'm gonna hide this as well. Excellent. Okay, well, oh, Chiluk, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Very appreciated. Thanks. Good morning. Excellent. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how I solve a recurrent issue. So I have seen this several times over and over, and that's why I wanted to bring it today, because I hope that this recording will help later on to refer to issues like this. So I have presented in this channel something a little bit similar. I have presented those reports who have hidden columns, let's say like this, but really the items are sitting in certain cells. For example, here is B5, and this one, for example, is sitting really in L5, but it seems to the eye that is sitting on M5, right? So that is one of the issues, and I have seen these reports over and over and over. So the challenge that I deal with this week is this specific items who columns or column titles don't match with the column content. So the problem in there is that even if you try to clean up the top of the report, remove all this stuff from here, even if you do that and then later on you try to promote the first line as headers, it doesn't work because the headers don't align with the content. So it's quite a bit of challenge, but I came with a solution that I'm hoping you can find it useful later on in your day-to-day work. And this, and I have seen this issue in at least 3 organizations where I have worked. So that's why I thought might be useful. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna just move here my video a little bit so you have a little bit more room on the screen. And let's say this could be the title of the report, which usually is merged around all the cells, all the columns. I have a subtitle, let's say. The report may say that this report is from January to September or from a specific year, etc. Then later on, we have the titles. And here I just put something. This is fake, but it really, I have seen this structure very, very common, right? So this could be a branch, right? This column could belong to the branch. This other column can belong to the item. Or actually, it's not the item. This belongs to the section. This column is the subsection. Let's say you don't have branch, you don't have section, you don't have subsection. Well, this can be the general group of your GL accounts. This could be expenses or revenue. This could be, let's say, the group of salaries and wages. And then this subsection could be for you, let's say, wages and benefits, right? So this could be the structure. The main thing here is that we have certain hierarchy, and this is the mom, let's say, this is the big group that has small subgroups inside. And those subgroups have items who have some numbers that you need to get together and present as results or a summary of something or comparison of year to date or every 3 years or 5 years, right? So this could be employees as well. This could be let's say a department, this can be a sub-department or a division, a department, a sub-department, and this could be items, this can be GL accounts, right? Within, let's say, if this was your wages, this could be salaries, and this could be your overtime, and you could be, let's say, temporary benefit for temporary people, and so on and so forth. In here, I have the item group. This item group could be anything, could be a code that you use for your employees or for your GL accounts. And this other column, in this case, is the reporting director. The reporting director, these directors are responsible to report on these subsections, sections, and branch, right? So in this case, we're gonna get just a unit cost units because I want to show you how to do some calculations in Power Query. So you don't need to do that every single report, right? So Power Query can do that for you automatically once you set your query correctly. And here, let's say it's a percentage. And I just put those percentages to show you different calculations as well. So I might call it overhead. It could be here allocation, it could be taxes, the tax rate, or something that you may need over there. You may don't need all of these columns, and you probably won't. Most likely you won't, but at least you have options and you can see different scenarios that hopefully apply to your day-to-day work. Okay, excellent. So you will notice that this file is called branch report. It has 3 sheets. The first sheet, and let me move on the side now so you can see the name of the sheets or tabs. You will notice that is the first one is sheet 1 that belongs to branch 1. The second one is branch 2 that belongs to branch 2. And the third one is called branch 3 and of course has the information for branch 3. This branch 3 has 2 sections and those sections have subsections. Branch 2 has only 1 section with some subsections. And branch 1 has 2 sections with subsections within, okay? So the goal is to combine all these sheets and bring them all together to get something like this. Let's say at the end of the day, let's pretend that I want to get the information by director, which section they are responsible for and which subsection they are accountable for. I want to see how much the total cost is, or I can also add how much their overhead is. So by doing this automatically or very quickly, we can get the results in no time, and I can have accurate information without me checking every single report and manipulating the information in a way that I can get these numbers, right? After I clean up all the top and I figure out what happens with the titles on those reports. The challenge, one of the main challenges that I found in this approach or in this report is that the titles really don't align with the content of the columns. So it might be a little bit basic today, but I want to make sure that we cover all the potential issues that we may find. So bear with me, you hopefully find something useful here. So let's start. I already prepared the query, and I noticed that for me it's working much better if I prepare the queries already. So I'm gonna go to data, queries and connections, and these are the queries that I already prepared. I'm gonna work on top of this workbook, but when you start, you're gonna start with a blank workbook. This blank workbook, you're gonna go to data, you're gonna go to get data, from file, and then you are going to select one of the files that we have. In this case, I just show you one, so I'm going to select that workbook, and I'm going to go to desktop, demo 2022 October 14, and this is the report that I just showed you. You're going to select this report and you're going to import. Okay, that's how you're going to start. In my case, I'm going to use that workbook that I already have, and I'm going to go to data, queries and connections. Then I'm going to click at any of these queries, double click there. And the only thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to group them. I'm going to grab all of them and I'm going to put it in a folder. So here on the white space, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say new group, and I'm going to say solve, and that's going to be it. So I'm going to grab all that information, select one query, press and hold shift, select the last query, and then I'm going to grab all of that to the folder solved. So we can start with a clean new start. Perfect. So when you create a folder, Power Query automatically creates for you this other folder that is called all other queries. That's fine. It doesn't affect any of your process. It just keeps things organized, right? So now that I'm here, I'm going to do that process that I showed you before, but now I'm going to do it here within the Power Query editor. I'm going to right click on the white part here where it says queries, and I'm going to say new query, file, Excel work. This is the path that I show you. So I'm going to go, it's on my desktop in the folder demo 2022 October 14. I'm going to select that file and I'm going to double click there. Here, Power Query is going to show me, the navigator is going to show me the content of that file. Here are the sheets that I just showed you. It has sheet 1, branch 2, and branch 3. And you can see you can have a preview of that content. I can see here branch 3 seems to be a good start. I'm going to select it. I can select any of them, or I can select the whole folder. In my case, I want to work with one file because I want to transform it, create a function, and then apply that function or invoke that function to the other files. So I'm going to select that tab, and I'm going to say, okay. Let me open this a little bit more. Control Shift plus to zoom in. You can see that my query came here on the left and it's called branch 3. That is the name of the sheet. I'm going to say this solve live. Excellent. So now that I rename my query, I can rename my query here as well. As you can see, the name changed here as well. So I'm going to hide the queries section and I'm going to go here. So you can see the content of that file. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more content of this table. You can see that Power Query created 2 steps for me. Promoted the headers and changed the data type. I'm not ready to do that. First of all, the first line cannot be promoted as headers because it's not correct. And second, we cannot change the type yet. It's too early to change that. And what Power Query does, change the type and keeps this as hard-coded. The name of the columns are hard-coded, so we don't want that. This is going to create errors later on because we won't have all the columns probably in all the files, or we may have different organization or different amount of columns. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that. We will do this almost at the end, almost. In this case, we will need to do it just before the end, okay? So I'm going to remove promote headers. We don't need that yet. And now I have the data as it comes from the sheet, right? So here I have the title of the report, and I have other lines that don't work or I don't need. And row 5, I have the title item, but really what I have there is the name of the section, right? So this title doesn't work there. Now, I have shown you a similar report before with double header. In this case, we don't have the case. In this case, we have just a plain header, but it's incorrect, let's say, because it's not aligning with the content of the column. So when I scroll to my right, these titles are matching, but right here, I have my overhead. Oh, in this case, it worked. I tried it before and the overhead was in a different column. But anyhow, at the end of the day, I cannot promote all the headers because there are headers that are not matching. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove all the file lines because I'm not going to use them as they are right now. Because if I do that, then later on, then whatever I promote as headers is going to be hard coded. And if it doesn't belong there, then it's going to create issues later on. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that dynamically. So, or as dynamic as possible, right? So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to create a new step. And here, this branch tree sheet refers to the previous step, refers to the table in the previous step. What Power Query does, it brings the file here on the source from this directory and brings the information that I asked when asked me which sheet I wanted to bring. Here I told Power Query that I wanted to bring the sheet that it was called branch tree, and that is the kind of information that brought a sheet, not a table, a sheet. And then that information is coming from the column data. Here, if I go back to the source, this is the column data, this is the branch tree, and this is the kind sheet, and this is the name branch tree. That's the only thing that Power Query is doing. Excellent. Now that I have that information there, let's start. When I create my new step, here I'm going to say table skip. Table, for some reason, IntelliSense is not working. Table skip. Oh, that's weird. Table skip. Open parentheses. And it's going to ask me for a table. The table is coming from the previous step. I'm going to say comma. And I'm going to say, it's asking me how many, it's asking me to provide a condition or a count. In this case, I want to skip 5 rows. I'm going to close parentheses and I'm going to press enter. And here we have the information without the first lines that I had over here, right? So my next step that is called custom. Now I can see that my information starts in row 1. Excellent. Now we need to do some work, and let's start by removing the empty columns, and let's start removing in a dynamic way. So I have shown before how to do this with the list count non-nulls. So we are going to apply that today. So it's a very good way that I have been using now quite a bit. So I really recommend that approach. As I mentioned before, I learned that by watching a video from Buzz and How to Power BI. So it's a wonderful source of information. Is a great source to learn Power Query, Power BI. So let's apply the process that I learned over there. Okay, so here I'm going to rename my step and I'm going to rename it as start. I'm going to press enter. And let me minimize this a little bit. So first thing, I'm going to create a new step. And what happens, and this step is referring to the previous step. So it's bringing me the table that is the result of the previous step, which is fine. So what happens when I say, I open a quotation square bracket, and let's say I want to bring the content from column 1. And I press enter. So what happens, it brings me the content of that column, and it brings that as a list. So this is a very good way to know if my column has nulls or not, right? In this case, I can see that my column is full of nulls except for the first line. So this is not completely null. And that is very important to know because I want to get all the columns that are completely nulls. So what Buzz mentioned is there is a function that is called table column. But for some reason, my IntelliSense is not working. I am starting to freaking out. Okay, because I don't remember all the functions. Okay, table column, and then I'm gonna say I want to refer to the table that is coming from the previous step that is called start, comma, and I really let me see if I can. Okay, let's see. It seems like it might work now. So now what is the column that I want to bring? So I want to bring now, let's say column 2. And then enter. Excellent. So this function does exactly the same, or it gets the same information that I did when I put the square brackets at the end of the name of the table, right? So that works. So if that is the case, this is a function that is going to help me to bring the information from the specific columns. And now I can combine the function table, okay, table count. Oh boy, this is really, this is not going to work. Okay, I'm not sure why this is happening. It never happened before, and of course it had to happen on live. But anyways, let me see if I remember is table count non-nulls. Open parentheses, and let me. Okay, I need the name of the table, and that table is start. And I'm gonna say comma. And I believe I need to provide this. Okay, I'm gonna say enter. Okay. Table count non-nulls. Okay, that's why I bring my other queries, thank God. Because I'm not sure why the IntelliSense is not working today. It never happened before. Anyhow. Okay, so what I did in here. Oh, this is when I call this. Okay, so first what I'm gonna do, based on the issues I'm having, I'm gonna copy my query. I'm gonna open my notepad. I'm gonna paste. And from here, I'm gonna get the reference of how every single function needs to be populated, let's say, right? So here I need to have my non-nulls. This is the one that I'm looking for. Oh, it's because I'm using table. I should be using list. That's the problem. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy this part. I'm gonna use it. And I'm gonna go back here to my query. And yeah, because I don't see that I changed anything here. But anyhow. So I'm gonna get back to my step and I'm gonna say list dot non-null count. And let me see. So table column, okay. Just give me 1 second because I just don't understand. Start. List non-null count. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm missing one parenthesis. Now I'm freaking out. Excellent. So you have noticed when you are typing the formulas, when you're typing the functions, Power Query helps you, right? So let's say if I create a step here and I said equals, and I say table, and then Power Query usually start providing you the list of those functions that start with table. I don't know why today is not doing that for me. So for that reason, I'm gonna be checking my code from my previous query and trying to get this to work properly. So if someone knows in the chat how to bring the IntelliSense back, please let me know because I would really appreciate it. And I can see here we have Asim. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong. I am so sorry, but thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Very happy that you are here. Thank you. Excellent. So, okay, going back to our step where I have list not null count, then because I'm counting the items that are within the column 2 from the table that is coming from the previous step, I'm using table count to get that information that is within that column, and I'm using the list non-null count to count how many items are not null, how many items are not empty. So in this case, in this column, 3 items are not empty. So if I go back to my column, to my table start, or my previous step called start, I can click at this a row beside column 2, and I can see that I have 3 items that are not null, and the rest is null, right? So that's where the 3 is coming from. Okay, what happens if I change this to column 12? Oh, it's telling me there are 29 items that are not empty. And what about column 13? 0. 0 items are non-null. That means that the column is empty. Okay, so this is what is going to give me the opportunity to grab this count and then select only the columns that are not empty, right? So I can bring only the columns that are not empty. I can remove the columns that are empty based on this logic in this criteria, right? So in here, I'm going to call this non-nulls. And I'm going to say enter. And so, okay, perfect. Siegel is telling us that as far as intelligence, you may need to save and restart the notebook. You know what? Let's do that. So very quickly, here we are. We are in this step. I'm going to go home, close and load to. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to only create connection. And I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to close this workbook. And the workbook is called Solve 2022, October 14. I'm going to save it. And then we're going to reopen it. So I'm going to go here on my desktop, Solve October 14, 2022, and then we'll reopen. Thank you, Sigo. Very appreciated. Really, I don't remember all the functions. I'm glad I have the queries that work, and that's why I like to work on top of them, let's say, on the same workbook, because if something goes wrong, I always can go back to that. But really, to be checking every single function from the other query is going to be a little bit painful, and it's going to be a long session. So thank you so much, Sigo. So I reopen the workbook. I go back to our query that is called Solve Live, and here is the step where we count the 0 non-nulls. Okay, perfect. Now that I'm here, I can create a new step. Or I can, let's create a new step. So I press FX here on the formula bar, and this is my new step. And it's referring to my previous step that is called non-nulls. I don't want that. I want to refer to my start. I want to bring the table. So I'm going to say start, enter. And it's going to bring, I'm going to minimize this or hide these queries. And now that I selected or I type equal start, so it's bringing me that table. Now that I have that, I can say, perfect. Now give me, and now I just want to make sure, let's select, perfect. Okay, give me the names of all the columns. So I'm going to say table column names. No, the intelligence doesn't want to work. Anyhow, well, here we go. Column names. Okay. And then I'm going to select the table where I want to get the column names. I'm going to say enter. I'm going to press enter. And then now I can see that I have all the names of all my columns. Perfect. Now that I have that, I can say I can filter only the columns that are empty, right? So let's see. I'm gonna, after the equal, I'm gonna say table. Oh boy. Okay, table. No, actually, it's gonna be list. Select. So we're gonna select. On this list is this function will ask us for a list. The list is coming here from this list. And I'm going to say comma, and I'm going to say each. So it's going to select And now I'm going to go to my previous step and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab this formula here. I'm going to Control C. I'm going to go to custom one and I'm going to paste that in here. And now I don't want to refer to a specific column. I'm going to refer to all the lines that the list column names, the list with all the column names refers to. So I'm going to ask to this function to look at every single line. And once it looks there, bring me only those that equal 0. And I'm going to close parentheses. And it worked. So I'm so happy. Okay, perfect. So these are the columns that are completely null. Remember that I brought the content of column 13 and that had a 0. Well, that means that all of these columns as well equal 0. Those are the ones that are empty. Now I can select from my table here on the start step. I can select from here those columns that don't contain or don't equal these numbers, right? So what we're gonna do here, I have the, let me see, the empty columns. Now that I copy and paste that information in here, I don't need this step that is called not null. I close it, I'll delete. And here I'm saying custom, this is gonna be empty columns. Empty columns. Excellent. Now, the next step, I'm going to create a new step here, and I'm going to bring the table that is coming from start. But first, I'm going to say tables, table remove columns. Yeah, table remove columns. And the table where I want to remove this column from is coming from my step start, comma, and which are the columns that I want to delete? Those are the ones that I have listed here that are coming from my step empty columns. So I'm going to close parentheses and I'm going to press enter. Excellent. Now you can see that I only have column 1, 2, 3, 6 because we deleted 4 and 5. I have 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12. We deleted 11, 13, 14, and 15. So in this way, we will have a dynamic way to remove empty columns, right? So excellent. We solved one problem, right? So excellent. Okay, I can see here Ellie is joining. Thank you so much, Ellie, sorry. Ellie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. We are having a little bit of issues with the IntelliSense, but we are making this work. So far so good. It's a test. How much do you remember of your functions? So thank goodness I prepared this information with time. Otherwise, I would be in very, very big troubles. So anyhow, so now these are not the final columns, but let's say this is removed empties, right? Asim, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks. Awesome. Okay, we are getting more and more people joining to this session. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for those who are joining. I'm having a little bit of issues when I am preparing my query or I'm preparing my functions. The IntelliSense is not working, so is how much I remember. And thank goodness I have my cheat sheet, so it's going a little bit slow, but we are getting there. Perfect. Okay, now that I remove the columns that I don't need, let's start doing some modifications before we start renaming our columns, because the goal here is to rename the columns with the content that each column has. But before we do that, I want to split the columns that cannot stay together. I need to split those ones that I need information in a separate column. For example, here, I want to have the item number or the item ID separated to the description for the item description. Also, here on my column 8, where I have the director ID and the director name, I want to have that in 2 separate columns. So let's do that. I'm gonna go here to column 6. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna say split column by delimiter. I'm gonna select my separator will be a custom separator because I have an space attached and space as well. And I'm gonna say okay. So now I have 2 columns, and now I have column 6.1 and 6.2. What I notice here where it says description, in this part, let me see where I am. Let me give you more room. So here where I see description, I can see that there is one blank space before the word description, right? So there is one blank space. I can remove that by trimming this column, or I can go back to my function. Oh, Power Query changed the type. I'm going to remove that step. So I'm going to stay only with the split column. So I can go back to my step, and here I give one space after the dash. I'm going to give an extra space. I'm going to say enter. And by doing this, I didn't have to create another step to trim the content of this column, right? So again, Power Query created that change type. And now in here it says split column. I'm going to say split by, what is this? Item. Perfect. Remember that every time that you rename your steps, it really helps you to know what you did when you need to go back. And we will need to go back, and that's why I renamed this step start, because our function will start at this level, in this step, right? So split by items. And now just let me try something very quickly and see if this works. Because, oh, no, not this one. Just give me 1 second. Got the options. The intelligence should be here is enable. Okay, if I disable and then I enable, let's see if that works. Okay, so now I split that. Then let's do the same with the director. Select the column, right click, split by, delimiter. And in this case, it gave me the dash. I have 1 space, dash, 1 space. In this case, I only have 1 space between the dash and the words, so I don't have to do the same thing. So there is no space before the first name. So I have this information ready. I have to remove the change type, and this is going to be split by director. Enter. Excellent. Now I have the total columns. Now I have how the final columns, let's say. How I'm gonna do this in more dynamic way, because what I can do, I can start double clicking at each column and I can start renaming. For example, this is gonna be branch, right? And now you can see that Power Query is creating the code for me. And then let's see, the next one can be section, and so on and so forth. So what Power Query is doing is creating list of 2. This list, this function is saying table rename columns. You are going to rename the columns that are coming from the table that is coming from the previous step. And these are the names of the columns. Inside of a curly bracket, I'm going to give you a list of lists. So let me expand this so it's easier to see in here. And Shift Enter. And control the square bracket, the close square bracket. And let's say this is the first change. This is the second change, right? So you can see that this is coming in pairs. So column 1, the new name is branch. Column 2, the new name is section, and so on and so forth. But I don't want this to be hard-coded. So I'm going to remove this step. And what I prepare and what I recommend to have, and in this case, it worked very well. I'm going to go back to Excel. I'm going to go, before I go back to Excel, let me show you all the columns, right? So this is going to be branch, section, subsection, item number or item ID, this item description, item group, director ID, director name, unit cost, units or quantity, and the overhead percentage, right? Now that I know that, I made a list in Excel, so I'm gonna go close and load, because we already closed once, so we load it as connection only. So what I did in this case, I prepared this table where I have the existing number, the existing names, let's say column 1, 2, 3, goes to 6. And because that column was split, it created a 6.1 and 6.2. So 6.1 will be item ID and 6.2 will be item description. Same thing with the director. That was split in two, and that's gonna be director ID and director name, right? So everything else, it has only one column, let's say, without the point one, point two, right? So everything else is going to be only one, and I'm going to just rename them as this new name. So this table is called All New here on the Table Design tab. So All New is the name of this table. So this is going to be included in the files that you're going to have available. So you just right click at the table, get data from table range. If you can see it there, I'm not sure if you can see that part. Yeah, okay. Or you can go to data, get data, actually data from table range, excellent. And then Power Query will grab that information for you. And it's called All New 2 because I already had one because I tested last night, and I'm gonna call this one live, enter, Control G plus to zoom in a little bit. And now we can see our table here with the old and the new name. I need to convert this to pairs. Remember that when we see this, when we saw this in Power Query, when we renamed this, we had pairs, like column 1 now is named branch. Column 2 is called section, and so on and so forth. So I need to find a way to convert this into pairs. And my way to do that, I'm going to transpose this column. So I'm going to do it. It changed the type. I don't want to change the data type. In here, I can do everything in one step only because I'm going to start grabbing everything within one formula. So if you don't feel comfortable modifying the code like this, you can go and create an you can go to transform and say transpose, and Power Query will create another step for you. And the only thing that it's doing is transposing the table that you have from the previous step. So I like to keep as my steps very minimal. So for that reason, I'm going to delete that step, and after the equal on the source step, I'm going to say table.transpose, open parentheses, and this is the table, right? So the result of this Excel column workbook will be the table that I'm looking for. I'm going to press enter, and now I have my table transposed. It's just flipped, right? So now the columns are the rows, let's say. So in here, I have only 2 rows that I used to have 2 columns. Now they became 2 rows only. So now that I have this, I'm ready to prepare my pairs in list. And that is going to be very simple. I can go and say, create a new step. Or if you want to create a new step, let's say I go to FX after the equal, I'm going to say table to columns. Oh, the license is not working. So 2 columns. And that's my table is coming from the previous step, and then I press enter and it creates the list. If you don't want to have this step, the only thing that you can do is just grab the previous function, the previous formula. I'm going to say Control C, and I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab this information inside of my table to columns. I'm going to close parentheses, and it gives me the same result. It's just keeping everything in one step. I like to do that, have the minimal steps, because I work with these queries. I am the only user of these queries. If you have someone else that is going to use these queries, it might be better to have a few more steps just to make very clear what the query is doing, okay? Or put notes as well. You can right-click at the step and say properties, and then you can have some notes here on the description, right? Or in the advanced editor, you can go to view, advanced editor. You can have some comments right here beside the step. You can have the double dash, backslash, and then you can say comment. this doesn't affect the calculation, doesn't affect the queries, as long as you have the two backlash, okay? As long as you have this. And these ones. And I'll say, okay, done. And now I can go, oh, I don't know if that's gonna stay there. It's not gonna stay there. So let me go back here. And I'm gonna say Control X and Control V. If I put it on the top, now, because I put the comment on the top of the step, now if you pass your mouse around the other step, you can see that now you have an eye of information. And now you see that says comments. And if you pass your mouse on top of source, it says comments. That's the comment that I made. So let's make another more meaningful. Comments go here. I say done. And now you can see that it says comments go here. So that is very cool. And I learned that from Alex Powers. He showed that if the comments need to be on the top, not at the bottom. And that's what I did. I put it in the bottom, and that's why we couldn't see it first. So the comments for that specific step need to go on top of that step, right? So excellent. So now that we have that, we have our list, and let me show you what those lists have. So we have column 1, now it needs to be called branch, column 2, section, column 3, subsection, and so on and so forth. So now we have the new names, right? So I'm going to go back to my query where it says solve live. And my last step, I'm going to create a new step. And I'm going to say equal table.rename columns. Rename columns. Open parentheses. And this is a table that I want to rename the columns. That's coming from the previous step, comma. And what is the old and the new step? Well, that is going to come from my old new live query. That is a list, right? So old, new. When your IntelliSense is working, you will see this, the name of this query of this list. You will see it in a list that Power Query will bring for you. You can select that from there or just type it and just press enter. And now you see that the titles of our columns have changed. This is branch, section, subsection, item ID, and so on. So I like to do this because, or I like to do this technique or this method because if something changes later on, or if I change my mind and I want to rename the columns in certain way, I just need to change my table in Excel and the changes will apply to my table, right? So I can control that through Excel. I can say, I don't like this name, I want to change it for something else. I can just do it in Excel. Let me go home, close and load to, and I'm gonna only create connection, say, okay. Let's say now I want to change item ID for item number. I can change that here when I go back to my query. When I have item, I don't have item ID anymore, I have item number. So this is a very cool way to control the name of your new, or the new name of your columns, right? Or if anything happens with the old names, if the number of column 6 becomes column 7.1, 7.2, then you can change that in Excel as well, okay? Perfect. Now that we have this information, we are ready to make some changes that are a little bit more faster. So I'm going to select, and this step is going to be called rename column names. I'm going to select the first 3 columns, select branch, press and hold the shift key and select the subsection column, right click, and then fill down. I'm going to fill down all these 3 columns because I want to make sure that the information is going to be well identified for the items and the amounts, right? So if I start moving and removing nulls, I want to make sure that the information that I have in these 3 columns will always follow the corresponding item number, director, and amounts, right? So perfect. We're getting there. Now, Next thing that we need to do, we just need to remove the nulls that we don't need. And for that, from column item number to director name, I think are the best bets to remove the nulls, because those are the true items that present what all the rows should be eliminated. We don't need, right? So if I look to my right, my numbers, my columns out there are null, and I will see that this information is populated only with branch, which is already down. That's why we fill down to keep that information in the other rows. So I can easily say I can use the item number column to remove the nulls. So I'm gonna go to item number, click there, and I'm gonna remove nulls. And I'm gonna say, okay. So one thing that I just remember, first I'm gonna say fill down, fill down, it's fine. And filter rows, I'm gonna say filter nulls. There is something very important, and we probably will see it. We'll probably see it later on. In this case, this file is fine. Allow me to fill down the information for these three columns. There are times that the columns are not null. They are just, they have blanks. Blanks and nulls are different for Power Query. So when we have blanks, the fill down doesn't work. The fill down only fills down to null cells, let's say. If you try to do that, nothing is going to happen. And I think that happens with the files that we have. I think that is in branch 4, that is additional information. I believe that's the one that it has blanks. So for that reason, let's prevent all of that potential for errors. So when you are filling down, I recommend that you always account for those blanks. So I'm going to go one step before the fill down, and I'm not going to try to have the formula here because my IntelliSense is not working, but I like to do it on this step. But this time we're going to do an extra step because the IntelliSense is not cooperating today. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select these three columns, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say replace values. I'm going to say insert because I'm going to insert a step before the fill down and the filter node. And what I'm going to replace, I'm going to replace nothing. I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to replace it with nulls. And I'm going to say, okay, in this case, nothing changes. But when you have blanks, all the blank cells will become nulls. And now you are protected. Let's say you are in good shape to account for that issue. Okay. I'm going to say replace blanks. This is going to be the name of my step, replace blanks. And here what Power Query did is table replace value from the column that is coming from the previous step. We are going to replace the blanks, which is just two quotation marks, and we're going to replace that for nulls. The replacer, and we're going to use the replace value. And these are the three columns, and we need to provide that as a list. And those three columns are branch, section, and subsection. That's all that is saying, okay? Now, we can continue from here. It fills down and then filters the nulls, the null rows. Excellent. Now we have the information that we need, only the information that we need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select unit cost, quantity. I'm going to go to add column and I'm going to say standard multiply. I want to get the total cost. Here I have only the unit cost and the quantity. Here Power Query created the function or the code for me. And what I did is added a column from grabbing information from the table that is coming from the previous step, called that column multiplication. You can see here, that's how it's called. I'm going to change that. I don't want multiplications. I want to say total cost. And here is processing the following, each mini function, it says process the following. And here is taking the unit cost times quantity, and this is type number, right? So it brought this as number, which is decimals. right? So include decimals. Here you can see the 1.2. 1.2 here, if you click at the square, says decimal number. I want whole number. And I can change the type here. I'm going to remove type number, and I can replace that for, I'm going to replace that for int 64 type. Let's see if it works. I always rely on IntelliSense for this. So now it doesn't work. Let me quickly see here. Okay, well, it's not as bad as it could be. Okay, and 64 type. Perfect. This is how it's spelled. so now you will see that this is 123, which is whole number, right? I could have changed it here as well. Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna say here is total cost. Perfect. Now I have my total cost. Now I need to get how much is the overhead. I'm gonna select total cost, select overhead. I'm gonna go to add column, standard, multiply. And this, again, Power Query call this column as multiplication. I'm gonna call it total overhead. And I'm gonna say enter. And now I have the total overhead. This is decimal, that is correct. It has decimal numbers. I don't need the unit cost, the quantity, or the overhead. So I'm gonna select the three columns and I'm gonna press delete. Now with this, I just keep the columns that I need. I'm just keeping all the other columns. And I'm gonna go here quickly, overhead, and I remove keep. I'm gonna call this keep final columns. Enter. And now I'm ready to get this into a function. Now it's doing all the work for me. So now if I create this as a function, I can just invoke that to my other files. And that is going to be very quickly. I finish my query. I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate. I recommend that you duplicate the queries once you finish the process, duplicate and create a function from there, because otherwise, if you create a function from the query that you just finished and things don't work, then you're going to be in big trouble. You need to probably repeat the process all over again. Okay. So in here, where I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna add an fx at the beginning, in front of the name of the query, and it says solve live. This doesn't convert it to a query, to a function. It's just differentiating that this is gonna be the function, and also I can keep the same name, solve live, but Power Query doesn't allow me to keep the same name. So for me, having the fx allows me to keep a very close same name, and also it helps me to have a control to see, okay, I created this function, this is from me, so it says fx. When the IntelliSense works, you can see it listed when you are typing the name of your query, okay, or your function, I mean. So once I'm here, I go to View, Advanced Editor, Control-Shift plus to zoom in. And here, as we have learned before, to convert this to a function, for those who are new, who don't know, to convert this to a function, I need to provide the parentheses on the top. I want to say equal, greater than. This equal and greater than is the goes to symbol, which needs to be together with the parentheses. The parentheses will have the parameters inside. So my parameter in this case will be my table, as table. The result of this function will be a table. So I'm going to say that it's going to be as table. And, oh, that's odd. I don't know why the ABC is coming on top of this, in front of this. Anyhow, okay. So I'm going to say done. Oh, I'm wondering if this is because of some changes happen. Anyhow, well, I'll figure it out this weekend. Okay. Okay. Now we have our function, and our function is asking us for a table. In this case, it's looking for a table that exists, is solve live. That's not the table. We're going to provide that information, right? So have my function. I'm going to right click here on the white space, and I'm going to go to new query, file, folder. From there, I'm gonna go and select the folder on the desktop, demo, October 14, 2022. I'm gonna say open. Here I'm gonna have the information that folder has. I'm gonna say transform data. I'm not ready to combine, I'm not ready to load, I need to transform. And I have the file open. For that reason, you will see this field in front of the name. So this field that you see here, that you see in here, that means that the file is open. If we leave it as is, Power Query will bring the information from both files, even though it's the same file, it's just one. But because it's open, this tilde and the $sign means to Power Query that is a different name for this file. So what I'm gonna do, we need to do some code practices, let's say. I'm gonna hide the queries. First thing, extension, right click, transform. I'm gonna lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter. There needs to be consistency. In this case, it's lowercase to the column extension. Select one of those extensions that you need to keep there. In this case, it's X. I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna say filter equals. Now Power Query has filtered that information for me, has selected the rows that are coming from the previous step, the table from the previous step is processing the following. From the column extension is selecting only the ones that end in XLSX. Perfect. So the next thing that I'm going to do here in name, I'm going to click the row and I'm going to go to text filter, does not begin with, and does not begin with that tilde. So I'm going to provide that tilde that is beside the number 1 in your alphanumeric keyboard. You press Shift and that key, and then you get that tilde. So this one. Perfect. Control Shift minus to zoom out, and I'm going to say OK. And by doing this, I just keep the items or the files that are closed. Perfect. So very quickly, lowercase, I'm going to just rename. And this is going to be XLSX. And the next one is going to be open. Okay, so once I did this, I have in here my files as binary. This has only the name of the report and how many bytes that report has. That's all that it means. So I need to convert this into something that I'm going to be able to work with, and I understand, right? So I'm going to transform this information. I can add a column and extract the information from this column as Excel workbook, but I'm going to create a new step here, and I'm going to say table transform columns. Oh, intelligent not working. Table transform columns, I think. Open parentheses, here we have the table from the previous step, comma. And I'm gonna say that here I need, okay, need to provide the transformation, need to provide that as a list. So that's gonna be here in quotation marks, the name of the column, and that's, oh, what happened there? And the name of the column is content. And what I wanted to do, I'm going to say each. I want to extract information from the Excel workbook. I'm going to open parentheses, underscore, because I want to look at every single line of the column content. That's why I provide the underscore. I'm going to close parentheses and I'm going to say enter. And now we have the content of that file. So you can see now that we have sheet 1, branch 2, branch 3. Those are the tabs that that file had. And now we have the type or the kind. All of them are sheets. They were not tables when they were on the file, right? So that's why the kind is sheet. But the column data has that information as table. Perfect. That's the one that I want to bring. I want to bring the data column. So here on my content column, I'm going to click at those rows, remove all the check marks, remove the check mark here as well, and use original name as prefix. And in here, I'm going to just select the column data. I'm going to say, okay. Once I have that, I can see that this is the content of every single file. Still, it's not transformed yet. Here you can see all the lines that we don't need on the top, that we don't have the correct headers, etc. Perfect. Now that I have this information here, I'm gonna invoke my function. So I'm gonna add column, invoke custom function, and I'm gonna keep this name custom. I don't need it. I'm not gonna keep it, so I'm gonna just leave it as is. And the function that I wanna call is fx solve live. That's the one that we just created. My table will come from the table that I'm seeing here, and that's gonna come from my column names. Here I have several columns. The column name will be data, and I'm gonna say okay. Oh, what happened? Query references other queries or step, or it may not directly access data source. Okay, something is happening. You could see that before my query was working. The ones that I prepared. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go home, close and load to, and I'm gonna create connection only, and I'm gonna say okay. And I think the problem that I'm having is because I have this file open, so I'm gonna close it, and I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna go back to my query. I'm gonna refresh. No, something is going on. Oh, here I know what happened. Okay. But here I don't know what is happening. Okay, give me just 1 second. Thank you, Sigo. Thank you. And changing the privacy settings. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me go back quickly here. And remember that when I show you what you can do to your table, I show you here that you can control what you do in here. And I change this item number. I think I had before item ID. I press enter. I go back to the query that I prepared for this class. And now it should be working. Now it's working. It was showing me an error, and that is because I changed the name of the item when I show you that we could do that. But now that I changed the name there, it's giving me an issue here because it's not finding the ID, whatever it is, the item. So what I'm gonna do in here, when I got the, what was this? Change item number. Just trying to figure out where the error is coming from. Fill down. Saying that it's not finding that. Total cost. Item. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I didn't expect these things not to work. So, item ID. Fill down. Filter noise. Item ID. Right here. Is here. Item ID. Okay, this one is working. Let me go to my function to remove that. So, or to change that. Item. What is that one? ID. And that is because I changed the name, and some of my information was directing, or it was pointing out to the specific item. So this is very odd because I'm just doing exactly the same that I did, or in my mind, I'm doing exactly the same. But let me just quickly see what I did when I invoke that function, because I'm probably doing something wrong. Invoked. Okay, I'm gonna copy this and see what I did different. Oh, enter. Okay, so each, no, yeah, it looks exactly the same, except for the names of the steps or the names of the column or the name of the function, but the function we just created that. Okay, so I'm gonna go here as Siegel say, power, let's go query options and oh, thank you, Siegel. Ah, thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. It says Power Query privacy settings do not allow to external queries. Thank you. Very appreciated. Okay, so privacy. What is that? In here, Siegel, that you said that remove, always ignore. Okay, let me see if I do that and I refresh. There we go. Thank you, Sigo. Thank you so much. So I remove the privacy. I just saw what I did. I don't recommend that you do this when you're working in your organization. So, but for purposes of this example, it works, and this is the reason why. Okay. First, Sigo so told us so I can change. I can stop that error by changing my privacy settings. That is exactly what I did. So I went to File, Options and Settings, Query Options, and I changed what it says Privacy. I changed, instead of saying combine data according to each file's privacy level settings, I changed it to always ignore. Be very careful because this can be dangerous. So, it says this setting could expose sensitive or confidential data to an unauthorized person. So be very careful when you're working within the organization. In this case, for this example, it works because I'm just to myself, right? So, but be very careful. Just keep that in mind, okay? So I did that, and now this is the explanation that Siegel is saying that Power Query privacy settings do not allow to external queries. Okay, so just be very aware of that. So thank you so much, Siegel, because yeah, it worked. So thank you so much. Awesome, you are the hero today. Thank you so much. Awesome, perfect. Now it worked, and I have invoked my function in here. The last column is the column where I invoked that I added in here. You can see here. I added that column, calling the table from the previous step, the name of the column, a Power Query gave the name of the function, and process the following. What it did, it called our function, fx solve live, and apply that to the column data. The column data is the one that has the tables right here, right? So apply that to every single line. And now here is the result, where it's all well organized and it has our total cost and our total overhead. It doesn't have unit cost or quantity or percentages. It has only the information that we need. What I'm going to do, I'm going to combine the tables on this column. So I'm going to create a new step, and I'm going to say table combine. Oh, table dot combine. Open parentheses, the table is coming from my previous step, comma. Sorry, I need to provide this information as a list or as a list. Yeah, as a list. So the list that I'm going to provide will be the content of this column. And to provide the content of that column, I'm converted to a list. I'm going to provide the square brackets, and I'm going to say fx solved live. That is the name of the column. To the end, close parentheses, and I press enter. And here we have the information for all our sheets. Here you have not just one branch we should have all the branches. I know why. Oh, now I know what the problem was with the function. Okay, we don't need to change the privacy. There is an issue that I didn't realize when I created the function. I'm gonna go back here to my function. I'm gonna go View, Advanced Editor, and this is the reason why ask us the or warn us the issue with the firewall. And this is because it's bringing the information for the whole file. It's bringing information for the whole location. Perfect. Okay, I know what happened. So let me show you that it will work. So I'm gonna go to Demo. I'm gonna go Home, actually File, Options and Settings, Query Options. And I didn't realize that until now, until I saw that the function just applied to branch 3. So I'm going to go to Privacy, and I'm going to put back to combine data according to each file's privacy level settings. I'm going to say, okay. So in this case, probably because we gave it opportunity. Oh, no, here we have, you see here, that is a little bit red lines on the top, and that is because we're having an error because of that privacy settings, right? So we will notice it says an unexpected error occurred. That's fine. Let's go back to our function and let's fix it from there. So I'm gonna go to the advanced editor. Here, where it says my table as table, that is my parameter. Where am I gonna apply that parameter? My table. I want to grab the information for all the tables, not just for the table that is coming from branch 3. I want to grab information for my table only. So, or for the tables that are going to be listed in the column. So I'm going to say my table. Oh, look, now IntelliSense kind of is working. Yes. Okay. That's why this is the starting point. I want the process to start there. I don't want to bring all of this all over again. I already provided that when I called the file and we were having that column content and I grabbed the information from the column data, right? So I don't need this. I'm going to delete that part and I'm going to say, I'm going to have my parameter, my table, I'm going to have it here because that's where I'm going to provide the table every single time that I process this, that I apply this process. So I'm gonna say done. Now that I change that, of course, the demo is gonna give me an error here. I'm gonna delete all of this. I have my table in here where I have my tables in the column data. So what I'm gonna do that now is add column, invoke custom, and I'm gonna call FX Solve Live. I'm gonna call my column name data, and I'm gonna say okay. And oh, same thing. No, but did I change it correctly? Hi. Table. That's all. Demo. Invoke. Okay, I'm gonna do what Sigol said. That's really odd. But anyhow, because I have done this before with several ones. Anyhow, so I'm gonna remove the privacy. I'm gonna go to home, refresh, and it works. Okay. Sorry about that, Sigol. Sorry about that, everybody. But now you will see. Okay, let me see this. Something is off. Something didn't work correctly. Look at this. We're having branch section. And the first one, and the second one is fine. The third one is fine. There is an issue on the first one. So you can see here, it says branch nulls, which shouldn't because it should be branch branch 1, and for some reason it didn't bring that. So when that happens, let's go home, close and load again, and I'm gonna open the source. What is happening with that specific file? So I'm not here. Let me go in here. Oh, cancel. So I'm gonna go on here, and I'm gonna go to this branch report, and I'm gonna go to the first sheet, and I have this that it says branch 1. So it's coming correctly from there. I can see the other one says branch 2 and branch 3, which is correct. So I think, let me go here to demo. And here, I can see my branch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it has 5 items that need to be removed on the top. Okay. And in here, it just didn't bring it. Well, this wasn't, I wasn't ready for this. You can see that in the one that I prepared before, it works. So it's exactly following, well, it's not exactly following the same because something is off, but I did the same steps. I invoke my function. I invoke the function in here, and it brings me the branch 1, section 1. Okay, I'm going to compare very quickly just this query. My table, my table, and it says 5. It says branch, and very quickly, well, it must be nulls. Place value step. Okay, thank you. Let me do that. Nulls must be null. Yeah, it must be null. But I thought we accounted for that because in here we replace the blanks for nulls, right? Let's see if I go to my source where we prepare our query from, and we called the branch 3. I'm going to call sheet 1 to test it. Sheet 1, I think that's the name that it should be there. Sheet 1, yes. So here is the content. Here we have the thank you so much, Mbaikan. You can see in here the problem is coming even before the process, right? So what we did here, we replace the blanks at this step, we replace the blanks for nulls. And it's here, but for some reason, this one, oh, nulls. I can see that. I put nulls, not null. You can see that now? It says nulls here. Okay, let me open this. That error cost me and cost you guys a lot of time, but now, oh, I cannot sum in. But when I said replace this to nulls, I put nulls. And what it did in here, it put the word nulls, not the value that is empty, that is null, right? So in here, I need to remove the S. I need to say, okay. And now if I go to the end of my process, I can see, oh, it should work. Let me go refresh. No, it doesn't work. Oh, because I didn't change the function. Sorry about that. Give me just, well, it must not be nulls. Yes, thank you so much, Tiernova. Thank you so much. Yes. So I replace that in the query, but I need to replace it in here. What is that? Nulls. Fill down. Replace blanks for null. And here on the function, I have replaced that, remove nulls. I put not only null. I say okay, and now it should work. Okay, perfect. Oh no. It's null, null. The other was work. Okay, let's go back here, solve live. It works in here. Null, null. Okay, let me go back to the function. View, advanced. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. That honestly, I don't know how to thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm replacing the blank for null. Oh, I know. It's not null with a quotation mark, it's only null. Otherwise, it's going to recognize as a text. So I'm going to say, okay. And then now it should work. Sorry about that. I really appreciate your patience and that you are still here. Thank you so much. Now it works. It's because I put null in quotation marks in the function. Of course, when I did it on the query, when I did this, I selected this and it gave me this table or this square, this box. So I was able to just remove the S, and Power Query created the code for me and then put null without the quotation marks. And I manually changed it in the function. I manually changed it, but I left the quotation marks first. And now I remove the quotation mark because this is a keyword, right? So null is a specific word that Power Query understands. So for that reason, I cannot provide the quotation marks. Otherwise, it will recognize it as a text. So now that I did that, now it recognizes that as a null. And here we go. Now we have the information correct. Thank you so much for your patience. Really appreciate it and all your help. Honestly, God, I don't know what I could do without you. Thank you so very much, everyone. I know, Anthony, but it's very stressful. So I really appreciate it. I know it helps to see that, but this is real life. This is exactly how it happens. And that's the reason why I prepare my queries, because I really don't want you guys to waste your time watching me trying to figure it out. But I have noticed that some people like to see that, how we solve the issues. And the part that I love the most is that I receive help from all of you. So all of we learn together. So that is so fantastic. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. I know, no, I don't know that. I know it's just so stressful, but at the same time, I like to share these experiences because when I'm alone, I'm trying to figure things out. It helps me to see when other people figure it out. So like, okay, let's see, and just God bless me, and then we'll see what happens. But fortunately, it worked. I'm just got stressed because things are starting not to work, but I know it will work because I have the solution here. Worst case scenario, I just show you the code that work, but I prefer to do it from scratch. It just feels more honest. And as you can see, I don't remember things from memory. It's very hard to remember everything. So you can see my struggles as well. So now we can just combine the tables from this column. I'm gonna go to FX and I'm gonna just say table. I was looking at, for some reason I saw that the IntelliSense kind of works somewhere. If I do this, no, it didn't work. So table dot combine, open parentheses, and I need to provide this as list. So I'm gonna provide the square brackets for the FX solve live. And close parentheses, enter. And there we go. Now we have all our tables. And let's go to home, close and load again. And thank you, Eduardo. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome. So now this is the demo 2022 for October 14, number 2. And I'm gonna go to load 2, and let's create this a pivot table in a new worksheet, and I'm gonna say, okay. Here we have, let's say I'm gonna grab the information from the name, directors, director name. Let's bring that from the directors. Let's bring this, the cost, the overhead. Let's bring their subsections, right? So in here, and let's say, let's go to view, grid lines. Let's remove that. I'm gonna go to design, report layout, showing tabular form. Excellent. Now we have information ready to go, and I'm gonna go to number format, number, use 1000 separators, 0 decimals. I'm gonna say okay, and I'm gonna do exactly the same with the other column, just to have some formatting here to make it a little bit easier to read. Now that we have this information, now I'm afraid, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna bring information from branch 4. I'm gonna go to desktop, and I have here branch report additional info, Control C. I'm gonna go to demo, and I'm gonna say Control V, and we're gonna go here. Is that information is exactly having the same issues as the other files. So I'm gonna just quickly open. We have exactly the same structure and the same challenges. I'm gonna close that file. Here on my pivot table, as you can see, we have up to here. I didn't move the branch. Let me move the branch here so you can see how many branches we have. We have 3 only. So I'm gonna right click at my pivot table, and I'm gonna say refresh. And now we have 4 branches in no time when the query works. Right? So when I write the code correctly, the query works perfectly. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your patience, for staying with me, even with all these errors. I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate your collaboration, your tips. The heroes today, Sigol, Mbaikan, thank you so much. Who else gave me tips how to fix this? Tierno, thank you so much. Thank you, Eduardo, for being here. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Kasim. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't notice your message. Thank you for being here, Marvin. I didn't notice. Hello. And thank you, everyone. If I missed someone, please let me know. But thank you, everybody, for being here. I think I named everybody. Anthony, thank you so much for the encouragement, saying that, yes, it's good to see me struggling here, so you can see how I troubleshoot. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Sigol, for your comment. It's very appreciated. Thank you so much, Eduardo. Thank you, Sigol, Eduardo. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Have a wonderful week. I hope the intelligence works next week. I'm very worried right now how I'm going to develop my queries all this week. This doesn't work. Buen fin de semana, Eli. Muy buen fin de semana a todos. Good. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your time, and I'll see you next week. Again, thank you so much for your patience and your cooperation, and for teaching me how to solve some of those issues that we had today. Thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye-bye.